How you doing, guys? This is our second part of the video. We are reassembling the Broomhandle small ring from the same gun we just disassembled in the part 1. Here is all of your parts. As discussed, some certain parts have stayed on the gun. We kept the rear sight on the gun, and we kept the spring and the trigger on the gun as well. We're going to start reassembly with the upper. We'll take the bolt. We have our extractor. We wanted to make sure the ears of the extractor snap into the inside of the bolt ears, but in doing so, you have a potential of snapping off the ears. So when you reassemble, you have to lift this upper end of the extractor. You want to support it in the middle to prevent any kind of breakage. So we will take and support it right here, and with small taps, allow it to bend on the front and snap into place. Now the bolt is assembled. We're just going to simply, this is your upper portion of the bolt, so it goes in the frame like on the upper like that. You slide it in. You should see the extractor on the top. You have the spring is in the bolt. We did not remove it. It could be easily removed through the back. And now we have a locking block to put in, a bolt stop rather. We're going to use our famous screwdriver with 2 steps on it. So the point of these steps is we're going to push the spring, trying to get the spring to go past the opening so we can actually insert the bolt stop. So we're going to put that in. It won't go in because of the spring sitting there. You want to push the spring back and allow the bolt stop to catch it there, so that the bolt stop is in place and the spring is behind it at this point. You move it in place. If everything's correct, it has a little bit of spring tension. You have a clear pass of between the bolt end and the firing pin. Firing pin has a square cut on the top, round cut on the bottom. So as your bolt, you have a square cut and the round cut on the bottom. You're pushing this firing pin in through the bolt stop, through the spring, making sure it goes in nice and smoothly. Realign the top, realign the bottom, push the firing pin in, counterclockwise push and turn. And if you just reassembled it correctly, pulling the bolt and releasing the bolt will not release the firing pin. Now the assembly of the upper is complete. You're going to set it aside. Take the subframe. Subframe is nice and empty. You want to clean the gun before you reassemble. This gun is out of my collection and therefore it hasn't been cleaned yet. We'll start with the hammer. Hammer goes in this way. This portion interacts with the sear. This portion interacts with the sublock on the frame. I'm going to put that in, align the holes. We're going to take a sear spring and the pin, and that goes in, and the hammer now swings on it. We will, at this point, reassemble the safety. The safety has a bottom notch and a notch on the subframe. They do vary depending on the model, but reassemble very similarly. You have to find the position of the hammer that's usually in the middle somewhere. You push it in the middle position, not in the safe, not quite in the engagement, and then you just set it on the disengaged position and let it be. Reassembly of the spring, you want the hammer to be in at rest position. When you reassemble, your bottom of the tank should be on the bottom because that's going to be interacting with the sear. There, now we got that in there. This is a retention. Retention needs to go this way. This round piece goes in the retention hole. This portion of the retention will interact with the bolt lock eventually. So we're going to try to push that in. See if it can jump out. We'll deal with that later. And now the retention is in place. You'll see a round piece sticking out. Eventually the bolt will interact with it and create tension that way. Your hammer now has tension. You reassembled it correctly. I'm going to reinsert the safety before we forget. Kind of the same way as before. Now you have your sear bar. Remember about that tension, that retention knob. You want to put it in that way. Swing it. It goes inside the pocket. Swings inside. You want to cock the hammer and set the sear as if the hammer is cocked, because otherwise you won't be able to reinsert the sear itself. The sear also has a retention knob. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. You have to push this shoulder and the spring together so they create tension. Kind of have to snap it in place and then release and have it sit on the retention knob. And now your lower subframe is almost done. You have the locking piece that locks the subframe and the frame. It just drops in, and if everything's correct, you'll have a little bit of tension here with this bottom portion of the sear spring and the lock mechanism. You put in the lock stop bolt locking block inside the upper. You wanted to make sure your keys on the bolt stop and keys here are good and solid. You want to put it inside. It's like so. And when you pull the bolt, you will see that attempting to open. That is the way it's supposed to operate inside the gun. Now this is the most difficult part for everybody. You have to align it like so. Let the bolt lock sit on here. And now you have to hold it like this and press it in. And this will lock in this position. If everything is done correctly, your subframe remains on the upper. If it doesn't, you have an issue that needs to be addressed. We'll keep it upside down, take the frame, slide it in. Sometimes you need to help it a little bit. Pull on the hammer, lock, and latch did not fully engage. We want to help it engage fully. If everything is assembled correctly, by pulling the trigger, the hammer will go down. Sometimes we'll help the latch go down as well. So this is all assembled. The gun functions as it should. Hammer stays open. Trigger pull works. We're going to insert the magazine, follower, spring, and the plate inside of it. And now we are done. In our next video, guys, we will discuss the potential issues of this pistol and potential remedies for these issues that we can offer you in case you have an issue, metal cracked, barrel need to be replaced, known problems with internal components and springs. And until next time.